And we've got one more bizarre story for you. It's from Italy. The Supreme Court has added a new human rights violation: noisy toilets. I wish this was a joke. Unfortunately, it isn't. Italy spent 19 years debating this question: are noisy toilets a human rights violation or not? It all started with a couple living in northwestern Italy. They had a problem with their neighbor's toilet. It was too loud. Before moving on, here's Plumbing 101. Every toilet has a water tank. In this case, the water tank was embedded into the wall. And guess what was on the other side of the wall? The couple's bedroom. So every flush echoed through the other side. It was becoming hard for the couple to sleep. Was this a nuisance? I'm sure it was. No one wants to hear their neighbor's toilet while sleeping. But a nuisance is not a human rights violation. Unless you ask the courts in Italy, they sided with this couple. They said noisy toilets are indeed a human rights violation. What was their logic? Apparently, the sound of flushing plus the frequent night use compromised the couple's quality of life. It violated their right to the free exercise of daily habits. The penalty, more than $10,000 in fine. But the neighbor did not give up. They moved Italy's Supreme Court. Still no luck. The top court in Italy also sided with that couple. It said noisy toilets violated the constitutional right to health. I wish the judge had elaborated. How does faulty plumbing violate the constitution of Italy? It may sound funny, but think about the precedent being set here. 19 years of court cases. We are talking about legal fees, valuable courtroom time, all of it devoted to answering this pointless question: are noisy toilets a human rights violation? We could have saved them all the trouble. The answer is no. A noisy toilet is funny at best and a nuisance at worst. It is not a human rights violation. By calling it one, Italy is making a joke of real violations. What do I mean by real violations? The human rights guaranteed by the United Nations, they include the right against slavery, the right against torture, the right to seek asylum, the right against forced starvation. These are human rights guaranteed by the United Nations. How does a noisy toilet feature on this list? It doesn't. I understand that quality of life is important. Every country is trying to improve its standard of living. But that is not the same as human rights. It's a dangerous and insensitive equivalence. I mean, think about it. You have children dying from airstrikes in Yemen. You have millions of Uyghurs persecuted in China. You have hundreds of journalists in foreign jails. And yet this is what enrages you: a water tank that can be shifted in 2 hours. Frankly, we don't know how to describe this case. Is it a first world problem? Is it a complete disconnect from reality, or is it both? I would say it's both. Human rights were not designed with regions in mind. They're nothing to do with your economy. It doesn't matter if you live in the first world or the third world. Every human is born with these rights. And what Italy has done is an affront to those rights. These numbers should tell you why. Around 2 billion people in the world do not have access to a toilet. 2 billion. Around 1.6 billion people do not have a house. This is the reality of the world we live in. When 2 billion people do not have a toilet, a noisy one cannot be a human rights violation. This is not complicated jurisprudence. This is common sense. But countries like Italy do not seem to care. They play fast and loose with global regulations. One day, they say toilets are a human right. The world agrees. Next day, they say the toilets must also be quiet. This time, the world does not have to agree. And don't get me wrong, Italy is free to create their own laws. Noisy toilets, low ceilings, pineapple on pizza, whatever they want. They can criminalize anything they want. But don't call it a human rights violation, because if you do, you're trivializing much bigger crimes: the genocides, the illegal detentions, the extrajudicial murders, all of it. The West must look beyond its little cocoon, its little bubble of luxury. Inside this bubble, everything is perfect. Just look at their Wuhan virus vaccination. In Africa, some citizens have 0 shots. The West is thinking about its 4th. This is another example of their delusional thinking. And I know that was a lot to unpack over a noisy toilet, but this was not about that Italian couple or their neighbor's toilet. This was about principles and fairness. Human rights are not a joke. If you cannot contribute to upholding them, at least do not trivialize them. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.